Super excited for you to hear this amazing interview with my friend Michell Champ. And we go over so many different things, but she talks about the second act in your life, the second act in your career, how it can be more meaningful and more powerful than your first. And you're just going to love this discussion and how real and raw she is with her journey and everything that she had to experience to get to where she is today. And again, if you guys didn't know, my latest book released last week. It did hit number one new release in 5 different categories on Amazon. So I am so grateful for everyone that's been supporting it. And for those that have not seen it yet, it's called The Marketing Workbook for LinkedIn. It's a follow-up to my second book. It's an active workbook. So I highly encourage you guys to get the paperback. And all you have to do is head over to Amazon, just type in The Marketing Workbook for LinkedIn. And I hope you enjoy the book, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Network Marketing Made Simple podcast. I am your host, Scott Aaron, and each and every week, I'm going to come to you with short, simple, and powerful tactics of how you can grow your network marketing business, brand, bank account, and impact on those around you. And just remember, network marketing is not easy, but it can be made easy with simple steps to create the success that you truly deserve. So super excited about today's episode. Number one, I get to reconnect with a friend that I connected with a long while back through a mutual connection of mine, Jess Glazer. And why I'm excited to talk about the things that I want to discuss with Michell today is because there's a definite need in which the niche that she focuses on, which is helping women in the middle age, 35 to 55, people that are maybe transitioning mothers, people that are transitioning corporate professionals, people that are stay-at-home moms, and they've just kind of lost their way, and they've lost that passion and that purpose for what do I do next? I know that I am more than what I'm doing right now, but what is it? And I think it's beautiful what Michell has created for these women, whether it's her free group or the programs and the coaching, to really help those people move in the direction that they want to. But I think the most impactful thing is all of this has been created based off of Michelle's own experience. And for those that follow me, you've seen me do videos and podcast episodes on this before, practicing what you preach. There's a lot of people out there that, create and launch programs, just because they found a niche, but they didn't really actually go through it. And I was speaking at an event, and I said the best certification that anyone could ever get is actually going through an experience yourself, coming out better on the other end, because now you've built the blueprint to help others the same way. So with that, Michell, number one, welcome to today's episode. And number two, if you could share, before we dive into your story, what was that moment for you personally where your entrepreneurial spark was lit that has taken you down this path and this journey?
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. I am so excited to be here and reconnect. Like you said, it's been a bit since we connected. So yeah, so let's see, moment in time for me. For me, there were 2 major pivots in life. One was in a relationship, in a divorce with a very toxic situation. And then another one was career. So I've taken 2 areas of my life and made some big major pivots. But I'll focus on the one in 2016. That was my career pivot into coaching. And at the time, I was publishing a high-end neighborhood magazine. I had been doing it for 8 or 9 years. And I really just got to this point where I call it hemming and hawing, where I was so tired of myself. I was so tired of hemming and hawing on this career path that I knew I no longer wanted to be on. But I just didn't have the clarity of where I needed to go next. And so I think the moment for me was actually when a coworker sent me a podcast, and it was Mel Robbins speaking. So here she is, this, so authentically human mom over the age of, I think at the time she had just turned 49. And I just so resonated with her. And she actually was the moment, the spark that said, you know what? I knew I was made for more, and this just totally validated it for me. And that really was the spark that led me into some deep inner work and pivoting.
I think that's important, but it's funny when you mentioned hem and haw. I remember reading a book called Who Moved My Cheese,
Mm-hmm.
and two of the main characters are hem and haw, because a lot of people, they complain about certain things in their life, but they just don't do anything about it. And I've quoted my buddy Zach Slobin before, and he has this very short, simple quote: "So what? Now what?" And it's so true, because there are certain things, like you, I've also gone through, two different divorces, and, they both definitely had their layers of things to learn from and grow from. And my second, obviously, I was a parent with my last marriage, and that definitely threw some new lessons and learning
Right.
from. But all you can do is grow through it. And I love Mel Robbins, but pivoting in life, and especially right now, 2020 has been probably the strangest, most unique year for most of us,
Yes,
because
indeed.
it's forced us to kind of look at things differently, how we interact with people. But I think for people like yourself and myself, who are very socially aware and socially present for people, it's actually been very beneficial for us, because our voice, our message, our vision, our value, it's being heard louder than ever, because there's a lot of people that are spending a lot of time on social media digesting content, ingesting content, learning from people like you and me. So I think it's really important. So with what you're doing now, what would you say, going through all those life changes, and going through the divorce, and getting into coaching back in 2016, what was the biggest, looking back, what was the
Right.
biggest lesson that you learned about yourself going through that divorce, that toxic relationship, getting out of it, moving into coaching, to doing what you're doing now? What do you think, looking back, was the greatest thing that you took away from it?
I think the greatest thing that I took away was realizing that all of the answers truly are inside myself. And we hear it so many times, but when you really have to rely on yourself, and I think that is the biggest thing I gained was learning how to trust myself and trust the process, and learning how to do it, like really diving in, tapping into those old stories and what needed unraveling in order to move forward.
Yeah, we're not trees. We have the ability to move, and most people, they get stuck on something, whether it's another person or a feeling or an emotion. And you know, our self-worth is something that I think people also devalue a lot. When you're in those dark moments, when you're in those moments where a relationship is coming to an end, whether it was your decision or the other person's decision, when you've had to make some life changes career-wise, where you may have lost your job, or you've resigned because it just was a toxic environment for you. When one door closes, another door opens up. But what I have found is that 50% of the people will walk through that next door to see what's on the other side. And then there's that other 50% of individuals that kind of just stand on the one side of the door, but they're just very skeptical and scared and fearful that, what if I step through and I end up in the same exact situation that I just got out of? And again, we don't know that, but what you think about most often is what you will become. So
Right.
if you think about, I'm just going to get in another toxic relationship and I'm going to get out of it, I'm going to be in the same situation. So, you were married for a good amount of time
Yeah,
prior,
13 years.
13 years, and that's, almost a decade and a half. How did you make that transition of getting out of that toxic relationship, doing the inner work on yourself, which is so important, to then attracting the right kind of person into the life that you're in now, and being in that healthy relationship and having that proper support system around you?
Right. So great question, because it's so multifaceted of how I got out of that. I think the number one thing I tell my clients all the time is fear isn't going to go away. The goal is not for fear to disappear, because it never will. It never will. The goal is always like, how can I take action? What are the steps to take action in the face of fear and just crush it and move forward with it? And that is really one of the keys, is to learn how to do that. First of all. And I think second of all, you have to have the right support system, right? It's so important to put yourself in the right room with the right people and really become aware of who are the people in your room, who are the people in your life. They always say you're the average of 5 people you hang out with, right? Old saying, and it's so very true. And I think when you start to take a step out of your current situation, your current life, and you start to look down on it, and you look at all the different parts in your life of how is that getting you to where you want to be, you start to realize that, okay, number one, I don't have the support accountability system and the right people, and I'm not in the right rooms that are going to lead me out of this toxic relationship. So number one, I think for me, it was having the right people tell me, Michelle, different day, same complaint, different day, same complaint. When are you going to make a move? And that's really was a wake up call for me of, all right, such a good point. And so surrounding myself first in the very beginning, getting out of a toxic relationship, was supporting myself with the right professionals. It was an attorney, a psychologist. It was, a mentor. It was the right people to move me out of the heat of the moment that was really scary to make a move. Number one was the right support system. And I think it was from there, it's just trust. It's literally like when you get to a crisis in life and you have no other choice than to trust the process, and just trust that taking action is going to always, action alleviates self-doubt and fear. And you just have to take a tiny step forward. I mean, action is what crushes it. And so I think just that was the other thing besides hiring professionals. It just is knowing that, okay, here we go. I'm like, what can I say on this? Balls to the walls, let's go. Take action, right? Just take action, move forward in the face of fear. And messy action has served me well in life.
I always tell people that it doesn't matter how far forward you step each day, whether it's a millimeter or a mile, but as long as you're moving forward each day, you're going to get to where you want to be. And I think one of the scariest places to be is on the other side of a relationship that has just ended, whether it was your decision or the other person, because it's, you've gotten, whether the relationship was good, bad, or indifferent, there was some comfort that was taken in that life, and it's what And then when that first day that you're out of it, you're like, okay, now what do I do? And this quarantine, this pandemic has challenged a lot of relationships, because most people, myself and my wife, obviously we both own our own businesses, and they're home-based businesses. So we're used to working home together and being around all day, every day. But Michelle, there's a lot of couples out there that are not used to seeing each other this much, to spending this much time together prior to having children, or maybe those first couple of years of dating. And it's done a lot of good for couples because it's allowed them to rekindle and reflect and reconnect. Some couples, it hasn't fared so well, where it's basically turned the mirror around. And I mean, touching on, maybe Rachel and Dave Hollis, where, I think that came to a complete shock to a lot of people. But again, outside looking in, we only know what we know and what they show. But, we don't know what was going behind closed doors. So we can only look at what we can see. So, and this, that, a lot of women struggle with this, and there's a fear that's attached to how they will be seen if they are a single mom or divorced. Who's going to love me? Who's going to want me? This, that, or the other. And it goes for men too. I thought those same things. So what's your advice to those women that may be listening to this, that may not be in the best situation personally? And also speaking on what you teach and what you train on professionally, they're in this limbo space where they're not inspired. The the spark has gone out in their life in some way, shape, or form, and they're not sure what to do. What's your advice to those women?
Yeah, so great question. As you were talking about, the quarantine with the husbands and the wives, I was kind of laughing, sitting here like wanting to chuckle because my husband travels for a living and he is gone probably 20 days out of the month. And so now we've had to work at home together. So it has been very interesting for me. So yeah, I think 2020 has been the year of reflection for my 21-year-old all the way up to anybody I speak with. It's definitely the year of reflection. And I think you've probably heard as well, like there's going to be more babies that come out of this quarantine and divorces, right, than any other year. But I think for like, when I speak to my clients, and if I were to speak to any woman out there that says, oh my gosh, like I just feel so unfulfilled, I am lacking joy, I know I was made for more, but I am so scared to step into whatever I want to step into, 9 times out of 10, I would say it comes down to really 2 things that need to be unraveled. And one is that they've allowed themselves to become overwhelmed. And overwhelm ultimately is a choice. And it's learning how to get out of that overwhelm and gaining some clarity. And so clarity is key. Most of my clients come to me with just a lack of clarity because they're so overwhelmed in their head. Number one. Number two, at the end of the day, no matter what blocks us, it comes down to our worthy story. Everything is based to our worthy story. And, for me personally, my worthy story was, I hustled for my worth. You're not worthy unless you're constantly moving and accomplishing. But for my clients, it can be just, I am not enough for whatever reason. I'm not enough until I weigh a certain amount, I look a certain way, imposter syndrome, I don't know what I'm talking about. There's so many worthy stories. So figuring out, gaining clarity on what your worthy story that you're dealing with is really the foundation to being able to make that pivot with confidence and not caring what anybody else thinks.
I think, not comparing yourself and not really caring what other people like this. It's so, I love what you're saying because it's simple. And as human beings, we tend to overcomplicate the processes of things. And what joy can you feel by comparing yourself to others or worrying about what other people think? People aren't waking up and saying, wonder what Michelle and Scott are doing today.
Yeah.
Everyone is so focused on their own life and what they're doing that, they really don't have time to focus on anything else. And just to be honest, I'm not that important. You're not that important. And it's not to say that we're not worthy. It's just, we're focused on our lives and our legacies that we're growing. And to think that, you're waking up and all these people are talking about me and thinking about me and saying this, that's just your ego.
Totally.
Screaming at you. And you just need to quiet the noise and you need to listen to the little voice in your head that's just telling you, how worthy you are, how worth it you are, how great you are, how loved you are, and just refacilitating all those thoughts. Now, with what you teach women, what do you think is the biggest stumbling block that they have to overcome in the beginning when you first speak to them to where they end up at, to really creating this new spark and this new life and this new vision for themselves?
Yeah.
And how can they overcome that?
This is going to sound, once again, I like that you like simple, because this is going to sound really simple, but it's so true. And most of the women that come to me, they have the feeling inside of, I'm not getting any younger over here, right? Like, it is time. I know I was made for more. I feel an inner stirring, but I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what that looks like. And because of all the old stories that I've told myself of, perhaps I'm too old, I'm not smart enough, all the things, right? They really just need clarity and they need their worthy story cleaned up. It really just comes down to those things. But most of the people that come to me, they start with, I have the feeling, I don't know what to do with it. I need help gaining clarity on it. And so that's really where we start, is it's really knowing the what. Like, you have the feeling, but what do you want? Like, what do you truly want? And what's holding you back, and figuring that out.
What are the biggest changes that you've seen personally by, obviously going first and going through this yourself from, where Michelle was, 4 years ago to where she is now? And how has that experience helped you to bring that to other women that are struggling the way that Michelle was in 2016?
Yeah, so what's interesting is I finally realized, I think, for all of us, I mean, Scott, I'm sure you can speak to this too. It's like when you realize that what comes easy to you, like what comes easy to you is really hard for other people. And when people tell you that like that's your gift, and so everybody always used to say to me, like, Michelle, you bring such clarity to what I'm feeling, like I'm able to speak back to you exactly what you already knew, but you just couldn't find it within yourself. When I realized that I have the ability to inspire and empower other women to step into their own power, and the only way I can do it is by stepping into my fullest power, that was my fuel of being able to make moves forward in the face of fear. Because when I got a divorce, I had a 2-year-old, and maybe I think she was 5, and the relationship was toxic in every single way and abusive, emotionally and otherwise. And like I had to leave my house in the middle of the night with 2 littles, check into a hotel room and give a different name so nobody would find me, and get a restraining order in place. So there's nothing scarier than that in my world, right? And so if I can overcome and step into that fear, I feel like that experience has allowed me to inspire and empower other women to do the same. And I just feel like it's my message and my belief, like my passion, my belief is, if all women, because I feel like men, and I'm sure there's men too. I don't want to leave out the men, Scott, but I feel like men have been taught to step into their power, and women have taught to be the good girls, to be quiet, to support the man, and like be respectful. And although we do like to do those things, we lose our unique power of like what we were put on this earth to do. And I truly believe this world would heal a lot faster if all the females would rally and step into their power. So that is my passion, is to help women do that. So I don't even know if I answered your question, but
No, I mean, you actually answered it perfectly, because I agree, women absolutely need to come together and speak up more. But to the men too that are listening to this, men are, like you said, are taught to step into their power, and they're taught to suppress their emotions.
exactly, yeah.
And I have no problem ever sharing my emotions or crying or anything like that, because whenever you suppress a feeling, whether it's worthiness that women suppress, or emotion that men suppress, that's a recipe for disaster, because the more that you stuff it down, the more it explodes into something else, and it's not good for anyone. So, letting the emotions out, letting the worthiness out, stepping into your power, or, showing some emotion, whether you're male, female, whoever, it's so important to do that. But again, I appreciate your vulnerability and sharing your story, because everyone sees what Michelle's doing now. They see the glory, but they don't know the story behind it. And everyone knows my story. And, I'll come on a podcast and I'll share my story of my father's 3-year incarceration when I was a teenager, and, having to file for personal bankruptcy and losing a house and being married and divorced twice, all these things, getting bullied and picked on as a kid. But they see the man that's here today,
Right.
and they're like, oh, he must have had it all and figured it. No, I had to figure all this shit out myself. This was 23 years in the making, if not more. My journey started when I was 18, when I had to step into entrepreneurship. And, again, everyone steps into their own personal greatness at different times. Yours happened to be, when you removed your kids from that house, you checked into that hotel, and you knew that, I have to start a new life. I deserve better. My kids deserve better, and my future life deserves better. So I just want to, number one, applaud you, for making that decision, because, when you have 2 other human beings to consider and worry about at the same time, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And the fact is that was also something that I considered in my second divorce. I had my son to think about and to worry about. And was I showing up as the best father I could be in the relationship that I was in? And, these are questions that that everyone needs to ask themselves. So,
you know what else I've learned, and I know this to be true about you too, just from speaking to you, is the other thing I've definitely learned is when you hit rock bottom, you become very vulnerable. You have to. And when you allow yourself to step into your vulnerability and not care what anybody else thinks, finally, you're just like, because this is all I have to offer, right? I don't have any money. I have all these crises. I'm living in a hotel, and now I'm living with a friend in her guest bedroom with 2 children. Did those times suck? Yeah, they did. But when you just show up in your vulnerability, you allow other people to step into their vulnerability. And it's like you make it okay for other people to be human. And that's something else I've learned, is the more I show up just exactly who I am, non-perfect, messy action, all the things, and keep it real, it's like it's refreshing for other humans to be able to be vulnerable.
just being your unapologetic self. And that's the thing. I never apologize for who I am anymore. I don't. I posted on Facebook a while back that one of the greatest superpowers that every human being possesses is being our true, genuine, and authentic self. Every single one of us was made unique. Some people may look alike, some people may do the same thing personally, but every single one of us has something special about every single one of us individually. And it's about stepping into that power, acknowledging your gifts, what you're good at, and spreading it around the world. So, Michelle, before we wind down, speak to the women that you typically work with. Who is the ideal woman that you love helping and assisting? Where is that woman right now? Where is she struggling, and where can you take her?
Okay, so my ideal client is definitely a woman who is over 40. She's either going to be an empty nester soon, maybe she already is, and she finally has the space, mental and physically, in her house, her head, everything. She has the space to step into her second act. She's ready to do her made for more, but she just really needs the blueprint. She needs that blueprint to be able to, what I like to say, navigate the messy waters of pivoting into your second act. That is who my ideal client is. And 9 times out of 10, she is a busy woman that leads a multifaceted life. I know for me, outside of coaching, my husband and I have properties that, Airbnb, VRBO properties. We have different things going on in our life. And so helping that person that has that multifaceted life run it in a very productive and efficient way is usually who my client is as well.
Love it.
Go ahead.
No, continue.
Oh, and so I just am remembering that you asked me the second part of that question, which is how can I get them to where they're going? So in my Instagram bio is the first thing I would say is there is a free pivot checklist. They can just click the link in my bio to get the pivot checklist to just get them started on their way to pivoting. Number 1. And then number 2, I do offer group coaching as well as one-on-one coaching.
Beautiful. And I know you guys can't see Michelle, but she works with people that are 40 and older, but she honestly looks like she's in her early 30s. So that's, she practices what she preaches. And again, when you really take care of yourself in any and all ways, obviously your life can improve immensely in any and all way. So all the information of obviously how to connect with Michelle and to learn what she does and how she can help you will be in the show notes and the bio of this episode. So Michelle, before we end, one final question. What does success truly mean to you?
Success to me means living your life in alignment and full of joy. That's what success means. So whatever that looks like to you.
Love that. Very simple, very easy. But again, we bring the meaning to success ourselves. There's no pure definition. You can look it up in Webster's dictionary, but honestly, you make success what you wanted to make. So Michelle, thank you again so much for being here. I know it's going to impact so many people, men, women, whoever's listening, because you can take this information and you can apply it to your life no matter what you're doing or where you are. So thank you again so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Scott.
So guys, I highly, highly encourage you to connect with Michelle, learn more about her. She's got an amazing presence on Instagram. A lot of free content is out there and obviously other ways that you can work with her. So guys, please enjoy the rest of your day and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you again so much for checking out this week's episode. And if you can, head over to iTunes, search for Network Marketing Made Simple, leave me a 5-star rating, basic review. I would be grateful for all of the support you guys can give me. And again, if you'd be interested in learning more how to utilize LinkedIn to grow your business, your brand, and your bank account, head over to my website, www.scottaaron.net. Fill out the form for your free 15-minute discovery call so I can learn more about you, your business, and how we can work together. And again, thank you guys so much. Grateful for you all, and I'll see you next time.